You would do anything for it, including hurting family members, hurting friends, even breaking the law. There was nothing that I wouldn't do for it.
It was one bad decision that would send Todd Loudon on a 26-year journey into the world of drugs as a dealer and addict, trying to bury the pain of unfulfilled dreams.
It was a shock to me that with one simple act I could throw away, my whole future.
Todd never knew his real dad. He grew up with his mother and a physically and verbally abusive stepfather.
He was violent with me, violent with my mom, and I just got sick of it. I didn't want to deal with it anymore.
By high school, Todd had moved out, gotten a job, and decided becoming a pharmacist would help him and his mom escape. One mistake would change that plan. He was a junior when a state trooper caught him smoking pot. Suspended from school, he was assigned a caseworker.
She told me basically that I just threw away my whole future. And I remember sitting in that chair just being devastated. It's when I rebelled, and I just made a decision that I was still going to be a pharmacist, just an illegal one.
It wasn't long before Todd was climbing the ranks of the local drug scene. And it wasn't long before he was spending his profits to support what had become a full-blown addiction to meth.
I knew I was going down a bad road, even the wrong road, but at that point I really couldn't stop, not on my own. So I kept pursuing it, kept pursuing the money, kept pursuing the drugs, the lifestyle, all of it.
By his early 20s, Todd was in a dangerous dark world of high-stakes drug dealing, filled with money, violence, and the fear that any day could be his last. Todd remembers when his suppliers held him face down on the ground with a .38 to his head and took his money.
I could feel the weight of the gun. I could feel how cold it was. And then at the last minute, one of the guys yelled to the man with the gun. He said, "You promised not to hurt him." And I remember thinking in my head, this is what you wanted. Was all this worth it? I began to really question everything. Question how I could be here.
Even that wasn't enough for Todd to change his course. For the next 20 years, he would be immersed in the crime world, living in constant fear of powerful drug lords or being captured by police, all while hopelessly addicted. 3 times he was sent to prison for drug-related crimes and probation violations. He also went to rehab twice and got sober, but couldn't stay that way. Finally, in 2006, at 39 years old,
I had reached a point in my addiction and in my life where I started just to cry out to God. I just asked God to make a way for me.
And Todd says he did 2 weeks after that prayer. He was arrested and found guilty of racketeering, which could earn him 10 years in prison. He remembers sitting in jail, waiting sentencing.
So I had reached the point in my life where I was just disgusted with everything, with my addiction, with what my life had become. And I reached that point of surrender. And I began to cry out to God, asking God to forgive me. And as I started praying to him and pleading with him, I just heard in my heart and in my mind, he started just saying, "Come, come." And I said, "Yes, yes, yes, Lord." And suddenly I was just flooded with this peace. And it just felt like this huge weight had been lifted from me, this huge rock. And I was still crying, but now these were tears of relief, tears of joy. I knew in that instant that I was done with my addiction. I knew that it was over. Not only with the drugs, but this running from God, running. My whole life I'd spent running away from God.
Sentenced to 8 years, Todd spent his time behind bars learning about God and his identity in Jesus.
I was in the Word for hours every day. I was communicating with God. I was praying with God. I was learning. I was growing. I was healing just from everything on my past.
In 2010, Todd was released on parole on good behavior, serving only 5.5 years of his sentence. 4 years later, he married Lisa, and they have a 6-year-old daughter. Today, Todd is a director that spends his time helping men at a residential ministry transition back into society. Todd encourages everyone struggling with addiction to trust Jesus to change their life.
God gives us a choice each day. You can choose death or you can choose life. But once you involve God, that changes everything. It's no longer a hopeless situation. Pursue a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Watch what will happen.